Hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about last week's Parsha, which is Parshat Noach. Each week us Jews read a section of the Torah. The week before was Parshat Bereshit, which was the story of creation. This week is Lech Lecha, which is the story of Abraham, but last week was Noach. So I know I'm a bit late on this, but I had quite a few experiences last week that had to do with the Parsha and stuff that I'd learned, so I thought I would share it. These Parshas also coincide with our holidays during the year, which usually means there's a certain Parsha or section of the Torah happening on Passover or Yom Kippur, and obviously our sages decided to have these sections happening on certain times so we can tap into certain energies and lessons at particular times of the year. So last week was Noah, which I'm sure most of you know, the story of the flood, the animals, 2 by 2, all that stuff. But I'm going to focus on just one sentence from this Parsha, a sentence that has been bothering me for a while, and I decided to research a bit. So at the very beginning of the Parsha, it says, this is the story of Noah. And then it goes on to say, Noah ish tzaddik, which means Noah was a tzaddik, a very, very righteous man. We'll often, call people who are righteous a tzaddik in Judaism. So okay, that's great. He's a tzaddik. Most of the people that we hear about in the Torah are tzaddikim. But then it goes on, and it goes on to say he was righteous in his generation, which means for his time he was righteous. Now, the explanation that I had always heard for most of my life was that this is a bit of a, kind of compliment / insult at the same time. In the music world, we will often hear this very often. For some reason, people joke about viola players. So if there's a very good player, we might say, well, she's good for a viola player. I really hate, all these stereotypes. It's like saying, someone's really nice for a lawyer or really not rich for a doctor. All these stereotypes are untrue. So, what's the Torah saying? Is it basically insulting him backhand? Is he, okay. So what we get from this is that had Noah existed, let's say, in a more righteous time and done what he did, we wouldn't be reading about him at all. We wouldn't care. We wouldn't actually consider him a tzaddik. But in this generation, where people were killing and raping and all this stuff, he could have been righteous just by not killing. So, you guys want to see? This is my kitty. She likes to disturb my videos. Okay, bye. Her name's Ruti. So basically it's saying that, yes, Noah was righteous, and it's a big deal to be righteous in this generation because everyone was raping and killing and idol worshipping and all that stuff. And maybe just by not doing this stuff, that made him righteous. And that's definitely true. Sometimes abstaining from something that everyone is doing around you is a really, really difficult thing to do. But, we learn that maybe it's not necessarily like he stopped other people from killing. It's not necessarily like that he actually made the people around him better. He was just good himself. And this is actually one of the criticisms of Noah, is that, yes, he was righteous for himself, but it's not like he tried to raise other people up. And some say maybe it was impossible to do in his generation, but Noah was up on the mountain building the ark, and it's not like he was down in his community trying to get other people to see the wrong in their ways and save themselves. He was just, thinking of himself. So that's one of the criticisms of Noah. So I was very satisfied with this explanation, but last week my husband was doing some research, and he found a different explanation also by our sages. It says Noah was righteous in that generation, in a very, very corrupt generation. So we say, everyone is affected by their community and their surroundings. So my husband was saying, and the rabbis that he was looking at say this as well, how righteous would Noah have been if he was in a righteous generation? If he was in this horrible, corrupt generation and was able to, move beyond and be better than that, then if he was in a different time where he was surrounded by people who were doing the right thing, how much more righteous would he have been in that generation? So according to this explanation, it's not an insult. It's actually saying that despite the fact that he was in this generation, he was righteous, and had he been in a different generation, he would have been even more righteous. Wow, that's amazing. So, as usual in Judaism, we have a little issue. Is the Torah praising Noah, Or is it kind of doing a backward insult? What is it trying to tell us here? So I will leave the answer for later, and first I want to tell you a couple of stories. So I'm going to, talk about, most of us know that there are many rabbis, Chabad, Isha Torah, that go out to college campuses or the middle of nowhere, and these are very righteous people who are very connected, and they go to some pretty not very holy places. And they go to these places in order to bring Kedusha. They go to these places in order to bring holiness and help other people who are there. So, these men are kind of like Noah. They're very, very righteous in their community. So, but, the question is, how does this community affect them? And you'll see if you actually know some of these people, if they didn't have families, if they didn't have resources, if they didn't have, communication with other people who could help them, then they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. They simply couldn't, because they do get affected by their surroundings. So, these are very, very righteous people who are being a light unto the nations, are going out and helping people, but they also are very honest with themselves, and they know that they could, eventually become corrupted by the surroundings, and they are very self-aware. And I do know some people that, they go and do this, and if it turns out that starts affecting them and their family badly, then they stop and they go somewhere else. So I want to tell you a story of someone I know who also, this is also about how her surroundings affected her. This person I know is a lawyer, and she is a wonderful, strong, warm, loving family woman. And she became a lawyer later in her life. And, at first she said, I want to go and I want to do family law because I know I'm such a giving family person. I love my family so much. And I know how much pain people go through, wills and divorce and all this stuff. And I want to help people. I know this is a painful thing. And I know I'm going to see probably the worst parts of society. And I know I'm going to be affected. But I think that I'm definitely a strong enough woman. And she is a very strong woman, if you knew her. Whoa. She basically said, I'm going to be strong enough to keep a separation between my work and my family, and I'm not going to let my work affect my family. So she did this for a while, and I know that she helped a lot of people. But after a while, she started to realize that she was seeing the ugliest parts of family life. She was seeing people hate each other and abuse each other and really, really horrible stuff. And while she never brought those sort of behaviors home, God forbid that she would, she didn't, she started to get depressed. She started, not necessarily being the happy, joyous mother and wife that she had always been. And she was getting affected by her surroundings, and it was taking over her life. Anyone who is a lawyer knows how much work and how much time it takes to be a lawyer. So she made a very, very brave decision later, and she decided to switch her focus. And now she does a different type of practicing law. And she had to leave because in the end, her priority was her family. And as much as she wanted to help these other people, she simply could not make the divide. Now, someone might say, well, I'm strong enough. I'm definitely not a weak person. I can not get affected by my atmosphere. But I think we all have to realize that we are all human. We do get affected by our atmosphere. I have friends and colleagues who put themselves in situations that are not so good for them. And as much as they don't want to become affected or become corrupted, they do somewhat. They do lose something when they put themselves in a world that's corrupt. So, what can we learn from this? We as Jews are meant to be light unto the nations. That means not sitting alone in our house, being all holy, and just being very satisfied with ourselves. We have to give to the world. We have to affect the world. We have to be a light. But we have to be a light. If what we're giving is not light, if we're getting corrupted by the world, if we're being brought down by the world, then we have to stop and say, I'm getting too affected by my surroundings. I need to make a change. So, what's the answer to this conundrum? Are we praising Noah or are we criticizing him? Those of you that know Judaism at all, the answer is both. The answer is both. In Judaism, we don't say that you have to pick one answer. Judaism is all about balance. We recognize the fact that living in this world is a constant paradox. We have a constant paradox between darkness and light, or the physical and the spiritual. And in this example, we have to have a constant balance between making sure that we put ourselves in a good place and surround ourselves by good people so we can actually give to the world outside of us. So I want to give you a personal example that happened to me over the weekend. Last weekend, I went to Baltimore for one day, and I got to meet Rivka Malka Perlman, who is someone I've been looking to meet for a long time. She actually gave me this brown tichel, so thank you very much. I love it. I got to meet her. I went to a good friend's wedding. It was a wonderful, wonderful trip. Went very smoothly. Everything was good. On the way back, things didn't go so smoothly. I was transferring in Philadelphia and about to get on the plane, and we have a delay. The weather in Chicago is not looking so good. We're going to delay you guys for about an hour, but it could be longer. So I call my work. I'm pretty upset because this means I'm not going to make it on time for work, and I'm going to miss seeing my kids for the day. The kids that I teach. I'm going to miss seeing them, but that's life. Found a replacement. Everything was good. It ended up we had to wait for like 3 hours in Philadelphia, and then it was just a general disaster. Now, normally when I've been in situations like this, usually there's a couple people freaking out and yelling and being freaked out, and this usually affects all the other people around them. And if she's freaking out, then I'm freaking out because I'm missing work and blah 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 blah, and everyone freaks out. So I'm generally not affected by people freaking out. I've worked on myself enough that I can keep my mouth shut and try to smile and try to smooth things over and try to make things better. And a lot of my friends are annoyed by my Pollyanna-ish attitude all the time, and that I'm always positive, which I really don't think I'm always positive, but in situations like this I can be very positive. So normally I would probably be doing that. But for some reason, the people on this flight were all so positive. They were all laughing. They were comforting the staff of the airplane because they knew how stressed out they were. We were all just having a grand time. We were all helping each other, coordinate our plans, if someone needed to share a cab when they got home, all this stuff. And I've never felt such a sense of camaraderie with my fellow passengers on a plane. Sometimes I get to know the person sitting beside me, but never had everyone just bonded. And, we were all sitting in our seats for so long, so people were helping with other people's kids, and it was just amazing. So instead of me being, I guess, the righteous person while everyone else is freaking out, now everyone around me was behaving wonderfully. And this made me not only not angry, this made me laugh, this made me happy, this made me connect with people. And I realized that, I don't have to just not be angry, I can be even more positive and even more happy. So these people around me really, really affected me. So I will repeat the answer to this question. Was Noah, was he just, some guy that in another generation wouldn't even be talked about? Or was he actually someone that was able to be that much more above everyone else, and had he lived in another generation, he would be even more above? Again, the answer is both. We have to be individuals, we have to put our foot down, and we have to say no when the situation is bad. But we also have to recognize the fact that we are human. We are really human. And the people that we surround ourselves with, the places that we live, do affect us as much as we don't want them to. So my suggestion is to make sure that you put yourself in a good place, surround yourself with good people, but also don't keep that for yourself. Give it to the places where it is needed. Get out there. If you are happy about something, if you have something to give it to the people that don't have it. But make sure in not giving that you're not losing it for yourself. Okay, everyone. Kol Tuv. Hope you enjoy. All the best. Bye-bye.